Welcome to Business Insights, your go-to place for the latest global business news. I am Olaoluwa Awe. Today, we'll cover the significant developments across industries worldwide, from market trend to regulatory changes. We bring you insights to make informed decisions. With our expert team, we dive into key stories, exploring innovation, growth, and sustainability. Whether you're an entrepreneur or investor, stay tuned as we unpack the news, analyze the trends, and illuminate the global business landscape. Let's begin with updates on companies. Now, Access Bank PLC has entered into an agreement to acquire the sub-Saharan subsidiaries of Standard Chartered Bank. Under this deal, Standard Chartered will sell its holdings in its subsidiaries in Angola, Cameroon, Gambia, and Sierra Leone to Access Bank. Additionally, Access Bank will acquire Standard Chartered's consumer, private and business banking business in Tanzania. This acquisition aligns with Standard Chartered's strategy of withdrawing from several countries in Africa and Middle East to focus on high-growth markets and improve profitability. Regional CEO for Africa and Middle East at Standard Chartered, Sunil Kaushal, stated that the decision allows the bank to allocate resources to other areas within the Africa place and Middle East region with significant growth potential. Access Bank, in turn, will provide continuity and a full range of banking services to employees and clients of Standard Chartered's businesses in the 5 mentioned countries. The agreement is in line with Standard Chartered's global strategy to achieve operational efficiencies, reduce complexity, and drive scale. And the completion of the acquisition is subject to regulatory approvals in Nigeria and other countries where Standard Chartered operates. Managing Director of Access Bank, Roosevelt Ogbonna, emphasized that the acquisition, coupled with the bank's recent expansion in Europe and presence in key African trading corridors, will enable them to facilitate cross-border and domestic transfers across all business segments. Now, Lionel Messi has officially joined Italian football club Inter Milan as a new player. The 36-year-old had already revealed his decision to move to the Major League Soccer MLS last month. Nevertheless, he was officially introduced to fans on Sunday, 16th of July 2023, having declined a more financially rewarding offer from Al Hilal, a club based in Saudi Arabia. Messi, who chose not to make a comeback to his childhood team, Barcelona, said he is thrilled to embark on the next chapter of his career with Inter Miami and in the United States. It is believed that Inter Miami presented Messi with a contract worth $60 million per year, which also includes fresh endorsements with Adidas and Apple. United Airlines pilots, represented by the Airline Pilots Association, have reached a preliminary labor agreement with the airline, granting them a potential raise of between 34.5% to 40.2%, according to the union. The deal, valued at approximately $10 billion over the contract's duration, includes improvement in various aspects such as compensation, job security, retirement, and benefits. This agreement marks the end of a prolonged negotiation period of over 4 years between the pilots and United management. The recent surge in post-pandemic travel has prompted pilots' union groups to advocate for enhanced benefits, with Delta pilots already securing a contract with a 34% pay increase. American airline pilots are also expected to vote on a new contract, and the agreement will undergo finalization and ratification by the union's 16,000 member pilots. Now, in a surprising turn of events, social platform Twitter has defied expectations and recorded a significant 3.55% increase, reaching an impressive 339.06 billion seconds usage as of Thursday, July 13, 2023. And despite facing stiff competition from a new rival, according to Elon Musk, Twitter's executive chairman. This news comes at a time when Mark Zuckerberg, the founder of Facebook, launched Threads, a Twitter-like app that garnered over 100 million sign-ups within the first 5 days of its launch. Musk shared data indicating that Twitter remained unaffected by the hype surrounding Threads. Interestingly, a vast majority of active users, approximately 87%, access Twitter through mobile phones, underscoring the platform's mobile-first nature. Additionally, the data revealed that users in Japan spent the most time on Twitter, totaling a staggering 68.63 billion seconds. Coinciding with the release of this user data, Twitter also introduced a new and revenue sharing with content creators, a significant development that will likely increase user retention. Under this program, Twitter began compensating creators for a share of their ad revenue generated from ads displayed in the replies to their post. However, Elon Musk, who acquired Twitter for a substantial $44 billion in October 2022, revealed that the platform had experienced a drastic 50% decline in advertising revenue, resulting in a negative cash flow and significantly impacting its financial stability alongside a heavy debt load. According to reports by Insider Intelligence, Twitter's projected earnings for 2023 were revised downward, with the platform expected to generate less than $3 billion in revenue, making a one-third decrease compared to the previous year. In an update announced on July 13, 2023, Disney has revealed that it had extended the contract of CEO Bob Iger until the end of December 2026. The contract extension aims to provide sufficient time to prepare a new CEO for long-term success. Iger, who returned to the position in November 2022, has been credited with steering Disney on a favorable strategic course. While Iger received high praise for his leadership at the California-based entertainment giant during his previous tenure from 2005 to 2020, his handpicked successor, Bob Chapek, faced challenges and setbacks during his time as CEO, leading to a sudden shake-up late last year. Under Iger's guidance, Disney successfully acquired renowned companies such as Pixar, Marvel, Lucasfilm, and 21st Century Fox. Additionally, Disney opened its first theme park in China, the Shanghai Disney Resort, and launched the Disney Plus and ESPN Plus streaming services. And to market trends, the Nigerian Stock Exchange NGX at the close of trading session on Friday, July 14, 2022, witnessed a total of 600 million shares traded in 9,554 transactions, with a total value of 8.8 billion naira compared to the previous trading day. There was a 25% decrease in the number of shares traded and a 16% decrease in the total value traded. A 7% decrease in the number of transactions as well. The overall market capitalization of the Nigerian Stock Exchange is currently 34.1 trillion naira. A total of 118 different stocks were involved in the trading, with 13 stocks gaining in value and 57 stocks losing value. The National Salt Company had the highest increase in share price at 10%, closing at 28.05 naira per share. Other gainers include John Holt with 9.7%, Skyway Aviation Handling Co. 9.67%, and The Initiate 8.93%. On the losing side, Flour Mills Nigeria had the highest decrease in share price at 10%, closing at 30.60 naira per share, followed by UAC of Nigeria with 10%, Wema Bank with 10%, and Champion Breweries with 10%. The stocks with the highest trading volumes were Access Holdings with 94.2 million shares, followed by United Bank for Africa 54.1 million shares, Fidelity Bank 48.7 million shares, and Zenith Bank 36.4 million shares. And still in Africa, the Nairobi Securities Exchange (NSE) closed the last trading day of the week with a total of 11.8 million shares traded in 1,182 transactions, with a total value of 122 million Kenyan shillings compared to the previous trading day. There was a significant improvement in the number of shares traded, with a 97% increase. The total value traded also improved by 14%, and the number of transactions increased by 19%. The overall market capitalization of the Nairobi Securities Exchange is currently 1.78 trillion Kenyan shillings. Similarly, at the end of the last trading day on the Zimbabwe Stock Exchange, ZSE, it scored a total of 1.7 million shares traded, with a corresponding market value of 1.4 billion Zimbabwean dollars. Compared to the previous trading day, there was a 25% decrease in the number of shares traded and a 27% decrease in the total turnover. The current market capitalization of the Zimbabwe Stock Exchange is 11.1 trillion Zimbabwean dollars. Away from Africa, Dow Jones Industrial Average DJIA represents a group of 30 big companies in the U.S. and it closed on July 14, 2023 at 34,509.03 points, gaining grounds by 113.89 points, which is an increase of 0.33%, indicating a slight appreciation in the overall value of the Dow Jones. And talking about Russell 2000 Index, which represents a group of 2,000 smaller publicly traded companies in the United States, on July 14, 2023, the Russell 2000 Index closed at 1,943 points. It went down by 17.90 points, which is a decrease of 0.91%, revealing a slight depreciation in the overall value of the Russell 2000 Index. Now let's talk about the FTSE 100 Index, which represents the top 100 companies in Great Britain. It closed at 7,434.57 points. That's trading. It went down by 5.64 points, which is a decrease of 0.08%. This indicates a slight decline in the overall value of the FTSE 100 index. DAX index, which represents the top 30 companies in Germany, on July 14, 2023, closed at 16,105.07 points. It went down by 35.96 points, which is a decrease of 0.22%, showing a downward trend in the overall value of the DAX index. Now moving to the commodities market, the price of gold is currently at $1,955.32 per troy. Also, the price of silver is currently at $24.95 per troy ounce. Brent crude is currently selling at $79.63 per barrel. Additionally, cocoa currently trades at around 3,203 British pounds per ton. Lastly, wheat is currently at $261 per ton. And that concludes the news. Thank you very much for watching. I am Olaoluwa Awe. Coming up, our valuable analysis for your business endeavors. Stay tuned for the thought-provoking discussions and expert insights. Welcome back to Business Insights and Souk News. Once again, I am Olaoluwa Awe, and this time I am with Hyacinth Eniojo Anike. Yes, we are going to be talking about the dynamics of price regulation in Nigeria. Remember last week it was in the news that Nigeria's President Bola Tinubu announced the plan to establish a national commodity board to regulate and stabilize the prices of foodstuff, especially in Nigeria. This is what we're going to be talking about today. Meanwhile, Hyacinth Eniojo Anike is the CEO of Valor Credo Limited, a business advisory consultancy company focused on product ideation and launch, business startup, business model design, innovation, strategy, enterprise, and leadership development. With over 20 years of experience, that's in the corporate world, spanning 3 industries. I mean, the food and beverage industry, the financial industry, and the oil and gas industry. He's also the author of the award-winning and fast-selling book titled Startup to Fortune, the A to Z of how to build a great and make a fortune, helping a lot of people. Welcome once again, Hyacinth.
Thank you very much for having me.
So let's talk about price regulation. What exactly is price regulation to you? And is that the solution, to the ever-increasing price of foodstuff in Nigeria and all over the world?
Okay, so basically, price regulation is government trying to control price, okay, to be able to give a certain category of consumer access to some product, if not regulated, okay, they might not be able to have access to. For example, you mentioned commodity. Okay, if you leave it open to be price to be determined by the forces of demand and supply, which we call the free market, what you find out is that a certain category of people may not be able to access it, especially people at the lower rung of the ladder, of the economic ladder, people within the minimum wage bracket. They may not be able to access certain categories of commodity if it is not regulated. So that's basically what, So sometimes government fix, a high price, a low price, just to be able to control access to different kind of, goods and commodities.
So do you really think it is the best method for price stability in any given economy?
Okay, so let me just say first and foremost that I'm not a policy expert, but I'm going to be responding, as a player, that plays in the environment that is created by the policies formulated by governments, all right? Okay, I have never seen any policy on the long run, okay, any price control policy, that is sustainable on the long run, okay? It can achieve its objective on the short run. So what that means is that from time to time, okay, it needs to be, reviewed on a regular basis, so that you can find out whether the objective is still being met. Otherwise, if you just fix price and leave it without getting feedback, from the market, okay, you find out that you can achieve your objective at the short run, but at the long run, you may not be able to achieve your objective. The second thing that I want to mention is that, okay, for every economic policy, okay, it plays in political environments and institutional environments. So you are going to look at what is the political will, okay, to sustain, all right, this price mechanism. And again, okay, if you look at, the ecosystem of the commodity value chain, how regulated, how structured, all right? How many of the farmers are registered? Okay, how many of the middlemen are registered? So how much control does government have over the ecosystems? All these things are going to affect, okay, the institutions that regulate it. How strong are the institutions? So there are issues of institutional framework. There are issues of, the political will, to do that. There are issues of the market, how, structured the market is. All the stakeholders captured. Can government regulate all the stakeholders in the market? Okay, what is, the entry criteria? Is entry regulated? Okay, is exit regulated? So if you don't have, a hold of all the players, in that ecosystem, very likely, okay, you are not going to be very successful in price regulation.
It's good that you've started touching on the issues now, because I was going to get to that, and we're going to talk about it more extensively. Now, in case some people don't know that price regulation is not new in Nigeria, it dates as far back as 1970s, when the government regulated things, foodstuff and commodities like cement, milk, and so on and so forth. And you know, for those who can't even go that far back, at least you can remember, you can still remember the days of petrol subsidy, which was just removed. So that was the government regulating the oil and gas sector for a while. And but from administration to administration, as I mentioned, this thing has been going on. Even the previous administration, the Muhammadu Buhari administration, tried to set up some sort of price control board as well. But of course, the price of commodities keeps increasing and increasing and increasing. So specifically now to our own, you know, economic situation, Nigeria, what do you really think the specific issues are? Let's even talk about the agri sector. At some point, you know, former President Muhammadu Buhari to set up a team, you know, to look at the price of, you know, foodstuff, you know, just something very close to what we're having now. Yeah. But of course, we've not seen any major results. What are the issues? Okay,
so the issues are many, okay? The first thing is how aware, you know, are the operators, the key stakeholders in the market. Okay, so if you look at the commodity ecosystem, how well, you know, that's a very informal sector. Yeah, and that's why I was saying before, how many of these people are registered? Okay, how many of these people have government control over? How educated are they? Okay, so that's where you start from. You have an informal system of largely uneducated people, okay, who don't understand what you're trying to do. So that's the first challenge. Okay, so a lot of education, a lot of awareness need to be created. Okay, two is that, okay, you are trying to move people, you're trying to bring about change. Yeah. Are you following that? Move people from an unstructured, you know, environment to a very structured environment. There's going to be resistance. Okay, the other one that I talked about is the institutional framework. How matured is it? How strong it is? The regulatory framework. Okay, we know that the capital market, to some extent, you know, try to regulate, okay, the what's called, you know, the commodities as securities. But the problem remains that how strong is our institution, all right? So there's an institutional framework, you know, challenge to it, okay? There is also issue of access to infrastructure, because what the commodity board is trying to do basically is first, you know, to set standard, and two, you know, is to, you know, ensure that people have, the commodities have, you know, they stabilize prices and they have access to the market. So those are the things we are trying to, you know, so without the right regulatory framework, you are not going to achieve that. Again, is access to infrastructure. How much, okay, so you have post-harvest loss, because most of these farmers, you know, don't have access to some of the infrastructures, warehouse, you know, cold rooms. So you have post-harvest loss because they don't have access to, you know, so the issues are numerous. Okay, do we also have the political will to enforce? Because it's not only importing policies, you know, from developed economy. You need to understand your peculiarities as your own economy, and you need to be able to adapt the policies to your own peculiarities. These are some of the challenges I see, you know, as a market player, not necessarily, you know, as a policy expert.
Well, at least what we know now is that President Bola Tinubu is collaborating with various stakeholders, we're told, including the National Commodity Exchange. We're told he's working with seed companies, research institutes, and agricultural processing associations to achieve the price stability goal. Now, you mentioned earlier that sometimes when government work with some of these stakeholders in form of bodies, associations, how many of the real stakeholders are even a part of these bodies? Because if you're talking about farmers associations of Nigeria, there are a good number of people planting and they are not even in this association. Exactly. If you're talking about Nigerian tailors, there are a good number of people. How do you suggest that this new administration reach out to these people? Because that's why a good number of times you see they'll tell you anchor borrowers loan. So people will tell you, we did not see the money, and the government will tell you that they targeted this organization, this group, they targeted this group. Whereas a good number of those farmers will keep saying that the loans they were supposed to get from the CBN, the loans they're supposed to get from NERSL, and the facilities government is providing for them is not reaching out to them. It's not getting to them, I mean.
Yeah, so, I mean, I said that earlier, okay, that, I mean, the ecosystem doesn't capture most of the key, actors. For example, even if you even capture the, what's called, the farmers, what about the people, the middlemen? Because, the value chain goes from the producers to the end users. Between the farmers and the end users, there are many middlemen, okay? Yeah, so, I mean, the challenges are enormous, but we can start from somewhere, okay? And it's always about data, all right? How, I mean, we have the national ID card, program that was done. I'm not sure, that captures the data of everybody.
At least we know that there's going to be a population census.
Okay, all right.
That is supposed to cover almost every area of the lives of the people, including what they do, where they do what, and their affiliations.
So this is my personal opinion. As far as census is concerned, government needs to be sincere. Okay, when we do census, we don't do census because I don't want to go into politics, but when we do census, we don't do census with the objective, for national development. Okay, it's either a section of the country wants to gain an advantage. So you find out that the census figure is usually not a true reflection of the population of Nigeria. Okay, and that's where the problem is. And that's why I talked about, there's the economic environment, there's the political environment, and there's the institutional environment. So once the political environment decides to politicize, the issue of census and data collection, you find out at the end of the day, the data integrity will be an issue, and that will not be useful for policy formulation.
But with all of these challenges that we have highlighted, is it even the right move for the Bola Tinubu administration to have announced this plan? Or is this a plan that they should quickly, adjust or maybe shelve and or replace? Because we have listed all of these challenges. They most likely, according to you, affected the moves made by previous administrations. As I mentioned earlier, even the Muhammadu Buhari administration tried this, it didn't work.
Yeah.
So is this a time for them to go ahead with a similar policy, or should they go back to the drawing board and come up with something else?
Yeah, I think what has been announced is work in progress, okay? All right, so I'm assuming that they are going to do the work, okay, to put everything that needs to put in place.
And how long will it take to do that?
I mean, it's a process.
The census has not even been done.
Yeah.
How are they still going to reach out to some of this?
But I think there are different forms of of farmers association.
Okay.
All right. Okay. So you don't need to depend on the census. Okay.
It's just about expanding the nets.
Yes, expand the net. Okay. There needs to be mass mobilized, awareness, education. Because once people find out that the government first is sincere, okay, and the objective is right, you find out that farmers, because if you tell farmers that, look, I'm going to give you access to implement, access to seed, access to, all the raw materials you need, if it is going to be at the advantage of the farmers, you see that farmers will volunteer themselves. I'm sure that most farmers are in one form of association or the other currently, So I think that, the fact that it didn't work in the last government does not mean that this, administration shouldn't, do something about it. So I think the plan is a good one, but it needs to be based on data. They need to understand what the, challenges or was in the past and see how, to address this differently.
Yes, before we get to the opportunities and threats in this policy for businesses, because we need to talk about that, how businesses should position themselves for what is coming. Let's also pick some lessons from the fuel subsidy package. At this point, we've been told is no longer sustainable. But there was a major challenge with petrol subsidy, with government paying subsidies. The moment the government intervened, came in order to regulate the price, they paid subsidy, but this also caused periodic hoarding Because some other people also took advantage of this and started making money from the government. Eventually, we came to a point where the government decided, man, we don't want to stabilize anything. We don't want to regulate anything. The same thing is happening also with currency. Let's the demand and supply, the factors of demand and supply. Let it dictate price. Let people buy, based on what they see. So how do we prevent such an occurrence? Because according to reports, the moment you try to put a peg at something, at the price of a good, you need to also invest in ensuring that the price remains at that. There will be people who want to take advantage of that. How can we really work on that?
So I mean, for every price control, the market would always want to beat it, and that's why I said earlier that no price control efforts at the long run, okay, is successful. It can meet the objective at the short run, okay, because the market will always try to, because what you find out is that such control, creates other markets apart from,
the main market,
apart from the
black market,
all kinds of markets, all right. So fine, and that's why I said that every policy, okay, has to be based on data from the market, feedback from the market. And that's where the institutional framework comes in, all right, in monitoring the outcome of, the policy and getting feedback from the market and using that feedback, to make adjustment, so it's an ongoing thing. And that's why I said that there's an institutional framework part of it, there's a regulatory framework part of it, there's a political will, to keep at it, okay? So there are different factors to it, right? But it is usually what it is, that when you regulate price, people either, the producers themselves, because what it does is that is either you're trying to bring the price down, okay, and you're targeting a certain categories of consumers, So what that does is that it depends on whether you are fixing price high, putting a price ceiling, or you're putting a bottom price. It can either increase demand or increase supply. All right. So so that balance, it needs to always have to be, put into consideration, by the institution and, that is overseeing this price control and ensuring that at every point in time, there's a balance. And this is an ongoing thing, that needs to happen, for it to be sustainable.
You already mentioned that price regulation, successful or not, is a short-term intervention, or can only be successful as a short-term intervention.
Yes.
Of course, you know that no economy should rely solely on short-term interventions. What then should the long-term interventions be? Because rationally, if you look at it, maybe short-term interventions can work if you're also working on long-term interventions, so that when the short one fails, the long one takes over.
No, okay, so what I mean is that, of course, you can want to control price on the long run, okay? But whatever policy is going to be successful on the short run, which means that the policy must be subject, if you're going long run, it must be subject to continuous review, all right? So the continuous review will ensure that you get feedback, okay, from the market and use the feedback to make adjustment and ensure that the objective, of the policy framework is being met. So that's basically, So every government will look at the long run. The plan is at the long run, but the implementation is an ongoing thing, ensuring that you are getting feedback from the market. Because if you don't get feedback from the market, there's no way you will know whether your policy is working. And that's based, so government doesn't have to work alone. They need to work with research institutions, to be getting feedback and get the data that they need, to make decisions. Policy must always be data-based.
Okay, so now let's talk about how investors and entrepreneurs should position themselves for the opportunities or the threats coming. Because first and first, what are the opportunities in this for businesses, small businesses, big businesses, medium, small, enterprises? Are there opportunities? Are there also cons? Are there threats? Are there, when you want to regulate a price, are there markets that, this regulation would eradicate and remove? Because people play in this market as well.
Okay, so, there are always opportunities. You know, I tell people when we look for opportunities, you know, to start a new business, one of the things we look at is trends. Okay, it could be technological trends, it could be government policy. All right, you know, so at every point in time you want to work. So when government have policies, government, by the way, is the biggest buyer in the market. All right, okay, yeah. So once there's an indication that government wants to spend money in certain sector, you know, of the economy, that's where to go. If you look at today, you know, the telecom and all the mobile industries, what led to that was that there was a policy direction in that direction by government, and people key into it. Okay, so it is clear, all right, that, so like I said before, so if government say we're going to, you know, ensure food security by regulating the commodity market, what I see is that, you know, first and foremost, like I said, there's going to be a lot of awareness about what government is going to be doing. Two is that there's going to be investment in infrastructure. All right, okay, in that sector, that's an opportunity. One of the challenges is, you know, moving good, this distribution value chain, moving the good from one place to another. So if government is looking at that direction, it tells me that government wants to invest, you know, in the distribution infrastructure. These are all opportunities that are there, you know, for business people. So it's always, you know, important that you look at the direction that government investment is going, and businesses can go in that direction.
Oh, are there also things that businesses should watch out for? I mean, call it threats, maybe not really threats, because with every policy, you know, a policy can either make or mar your business.
Yeah, I agree with you.
So
there are so many things that they can look at, okay, all right? So first and foremost is the fact that if government is going one direction, they are leaving some things behind. Are you following that? Okay, all right? They are leaving some things behind. So if government wants to support farmers, for example, it means that, you know, they want to shield farmers, you know, from importation of similar kind of good, so that, you know, local farmers can survive. So if you are into import, for example, you need to watch what you are importing, okay? Because I'm sure that government will put policies that will restrict import so that they can, you know, protect the local farmers. So those are kind of things that happen in an environment like this.
Will this be the best time for such importers to invest in local production?
Oh yeah, that's what I'm saying.
You know, so that it's just not a
lose-lose
situation.
So it's a time, like I said, once government is going in a direction, all right. But again, the risk also with government is that how sustainable are government policy? Yeah. Okay. Yeah. So I mean, that's why I said that yes, is a long term. If government policies are not sustainable, it's a risk to business people.
Because you change your business today, tomorrow
things changes. All right. So government policies must be sustainable. We must understand what government wants to do in the long run. Okay. All right. So that's part of the challenges that are there. People must understand what government wants to do, and government also must know that, you know, their policy affects, you know, the business environment, and so policies must be sustainable, you know, so that people that are taking position, making investment based on government policy will not, you know, run into trouble.
Yes, it's good for. It's one thing for a business to want to position itself for certain policy or for certain opportunity. It's another thing for the business to know how to. Okay. For example, if I am a rice farmer, and I know that the government is focusing on rice farming, then, and you know, government wants to put certain things in place to regulate the price of rice in the market, and this will most likely affect me, maybe positively, maybe negatively. But let's say positively. How do I then position my business to benefit from, what are the specific things that will be coming from the government, and how can I position my business for those goodies? Okay,
I think one of the most important, you know, as a farmer that wants to take advantage of government policy and whatever government is providing, normally government encourage that, you know, farmers form association.
Okay.
Okay, so you are not dealing with government as an individual farmer. Okay, you are dealing, okay, with government as an association. So in that case, I mean, you have access to, your fellow farmers, access to colleagues, all right? So you're not dealing directly with government. So for me, the recommendation is that you must be part of an association that is trying to take advantage, of government policy, so that you are not doing it on your own.
So this is not a time to be an island.
No. If I'm in business generally, you shouldn't be an island.
This is a time to collaborate.
You always have to collaborate. You share the risk. Share the knowledge, share the opportunities. You always is collaboration. Anyway, when you say you have a company, really,
okay,
a company is more than one person.
Okay.
I've not seen any business that succeed as a single person. So you always need to collaborate.
Because a good number of times, some businesses see other businesses like them as competition. And even when you belong to even when they belong to an association, that's how they deal with other businesses like them. Because of course, if you're in an association of farmers, for example, every other person there will be a farmer like you. But some people have that competition mentality.
Yeah, but the government forming what's called commodity exchanges and boards and all that. One of the things they want to ensure is that they want to ensure stabilized price for the farmers. They want to ensure there's market for the farmer. Okay, so very likely government is taking over all the commodities, buying them over. So the issue of competition is not there, competing with members that you belong to the same association. Because what government is trying to achieve is that all of you have markets for your product at the right price.
Okay, let's quickly touch on this before we call it a day. There's price increase that comes from the activities of demand and supply within an economy.
Yeah.
But there's also the price increase that comes up as a result of the activities of demand and supply on the global scene. For example, from my research, since 2008, the price of commodities have been on a steady rise. COVID-19 made things worse. Now the Russia-Ukraine war has affected the price of wheat, even oil. So how can a government ensure that it protects, or regulates price or protects the price of goods and services within its own country from external shocks like this?
So many things. I mean, the truth is that what happened in international environment can be an opportunity and it can be a threat to people around. Okay? Yeah. So what government is trying to do now by encouraging production, all right? For example, the wheat issue in Ukraine is supposed to be an opportunity for wheat farmers in Nigeria. Okay, for export. So if you have export-oriented policy, all right, okay, policy will be such that if there are, gaps in international markets, you have the production capacity to be able to fill those gaps. That's an opportunity.